wasn't scared. Why'd I eat the acid? I wasn't prepared. The last time I did acid, I went insane. I was hanging out with some friends, just getting loaded, when all of a sudden my mind exploded. I had a flash that I was gay and I got paranoid. I was sitting on the floor listening to Pink Floyd. The last time I did acid, I went insane. I was drawing crazy pictures, and before I was done, the picture started pulsing like an alien lung, and I said, oh my god, this has just begun. And it was 12 more hours before I was done, and we were up on the rooftop, and I'll tell you the truth, I was convinced I'd already fallen off of the roof, and these weird metal things all around that space, they were teleporting me from place to place. The last time I did acid, I went insane. So we ran back downstairs where it was better to be, but I was trapped in spiral staircase infinity, and when we got to the door, I couldn't go inside, cause it was the gates of heaven and I had died. The last time I did acid, I went insane. And this kid named Grim, he punched a cat in the head. He could read my thoughts, that's what he said, and he described what it was like, but I didn't believe it, like lifting a rug and seeing stars beneath it. And the first rule of tripping was don't be with people you don't trust. The second rule of LSD, the rooftop is not a good place to be. The third rule is to be prepared. The fourth rule is to not get scared. The fifth rule is to stay serene. Turn off your mind and float downstream. The sixth rule is to have a good friend at hand. The seventh rule, I hope you understand, is not to look too deep into your soul, or you might find a hideous, hopeless hole of hatred, hunger, infinite, idiot, mindless, meaningless, nothingness, 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 nothingness. And that's what I did. And every aspect of life that I selected was instantly and brutally dissected. I saw a horrible emptiness within, the reasons behind everything, and it was at that moment that I went insane. Because I started thinking about, I started thinking very deeply, pondering very intensely, which was probably a terrible mistake in retrospect. I was really pondering the meaning of life, because I had this idea, like when I was a teenager, I figured when I was getting high, this was for some, deep purpose. This wasn't like all those frivolous friends of mine who were just trying to get wasted. No, I was a serious, philosophical, bohemian type teenager, and I thought I would ponder serious, deep things. I wasn't doing this to have fun. I was doing this to have an intense, miserable time. So I really got my money's worth this time, because I did figure out on this occasion the meaning of life on deep reflection and acid-fueled thinking. I did realize the meaning of life, but it turned out to be something that, rather than being a proud teenager who had finally figured out what countless generations of human beings had been trying to figure out, once I did figure it out, I realized this was actually quite a terrible achievement, because I realized that there was no way to continue my normal life. There was no way to continue acting like a normal human being now that I knew what I knew after having discovered what I had discovered. And it was a terrible error, and I was just going to have to live with the consequences of that for the rest of my life. But the only responsible thing to do was going to be to have to just keep it to myself, because if I told anybody else, then their lives would be ruined the same way my life was ruined. And this was an extremely heavy responsibility for a 16-year-old to have to cope with, because I might live like a while longer, might even find myself on a stage in front of people telling them about how I discovered the meaning of life. I had no idea that that was going to happen, but still, I knew that in order to protect the human race from horrible self-destruction and existential annihilation, I was just going to have to keep this secret to myself for the rest of my life, and just never tell a soul, and keep completely, just keep it all inside. But tonight I'll tell you, because I figured, what the hell, I just can't keep it in anymore, because, it's been a long time since I was 16, and just figured it's too much to cope with this on my own. I have to just share, misery loves company. So basically, the thing that I discovered was that everything is equal, therefore everything is meaningless, because if you realize that everybody believes something different and that they all have equal weight and meaning to them and that everybody's truth is true to them, then you realize that all those truths are meaningless even though they're all true, but it's because they're all true that they're all meaningless, because they're all contradictory, and there's just billions of contradictory truths that all just crowd each other out, and each person believes something different is true, and therefore nothing is true because all of those things are true. But then, kind of even worse than that, I realized that the thing that I believed was that everybody believes something different is true, and that's just what I believed was true. But that was really where I realized, like, okay, this is really a terrible thing, because if anybody ever convinced me that something other than that was true, it would just convince me that it was true, because what I believe is true is that everybody thinks something different is true. So if somebody convinced me that something different was true, it would just convince me that it was true, that everybody thought something different was true, and therefore I had fallen into some kind of infinite mental paradox that had ruined my life, and I'm sorry I've now ruined all of your lives. And then finally, the last thing I realized was that the final, ultimate realization on that evening was that people like me just probably shouldn't do acid, so that was the last time.